Umesh Reddy is one of India's most brutal criminals. His victims were at least 18 women, although only 9 episodes. In the late 1990s, residents of several Indian cities where Reddy committed crimes were so terrified that they were afraid to go out. Reddy was arrested several times, and each time he managed to fool the wardens and escape. And when he was finally caught, he was able to avoid the most important punishment. On February 28, 1998, 7-year-old Suresh from Bangalore returned from school and went to play outside. Usually, his mother, 37-year-old nurse, Jayashri Marathi Sabaya, met him on the doorstep after the walk. But on this day, no one was waiting for Suresh, and the front door of the house was locked. Suresh knocked for several minutes before he was finally opened by a strange man. When he came inside, he saw his mother lying covered in blood, tied to the window bars, and cried. The stranger introduced himself as a friend of Marathi and explained that he had tied her to the window because she was possessed by an evil spirit. The man said he was going to call a doctor and left. Suresh sat in the next room for several hours, unaware that his mother was dead. It was only when he told his neighbors about the stranger's visit that they realized what had happened and called the police. Suresh would see the man again 6.5 years later. He would turn out to be a serial maniac named Umesh Reddy, who had killed and raped. The investigation claimed that apart from Marathi, at least 17 other women were his victims. Umesh Reddy was born in May 1973 in the farming village of Besapanamalish. Reddy's family lived in poverty and was no different from other villagers. His mother was a friendly and sociable woman, but his father often drank and beat Umesh. The boy grew up withdrawn and began stealing while still in school. First books, pencils, and pens, and then the neighbors' goats and peanuts. Soon the villagers turned against Umesh, and he had to leave. In 1996, he joined the Indian Gendarmerie and was posted to Jammu and Kashmir. There, he committed his first attack. He tried to rape the daughter of the commandant, whose house he was assigned to guard. When this became known, Reddy fled Kashmir and returned to his home state of Karnataka to get a job with the district police. The state authorities knew nothing about the incident and had no trouble recruiting Reddy. Soon Reddy attacked Divya, a civil servant from Chitradurga. He met her on a deserted path near a bus stand, tried to rape her, and took away her job. A month later, Reddy attacked a 16-year-old student named Pallavi. She had gone to a flour mill in the evening, but never returned home. Her family searched the entire neighborhood, but approached the police only after 24 hours. According to a Jap, the former district inspector who investigated Pallavi's case, the family first thought she had just run away with a boyfriend. Like many girls in the neighborhood, Pallavi's body was found 2 days later. In an interview with reporters, Ajapa said that all her clothes were lying separately aside. It was later confirmed that Pallavi had been raped. The perpetrator could not be found quickly. Public discontent was growing by the day, with residents coming out to protest against police inaction. One of the policemen who kept order at these rallies was the killer himself. A month and a half later, the police found out that 2 days before Pallavi's murder, Geeta, the minor daughter of a milkman, was attacked very close to the crime scene. She was working in the store, and while returning home, she noticed a man in a cap chasing her. Geeta tried to run away, but the man caught up with her, grabbed her by the throat, threw her to the ground, and started choking her. As Geeta fought off her attacker, she pulled off his cap and noticed that he had a haircut like a police officer. A few minutes later, Geeta's father, who used to pick her up from work and walk her home, he threw several stones at the attacker, one of which hit him in the head. At that moment, the girl was able to push him away, and he ran away. Ada's family did not go to the police. They feared trouble. The girl suspected that the attacker was a policeman himself. After the attack, Gita joined the Home Guard in small towns and villages. It replaced the police. A month after the incident, she participated in a rehearsal for the Republic Day parade. There, she recognized Reddy among the policemen preparing the stadium for the parade. Gita immediately told the law enforcers that she had found the culprit. Umesh was eventually arrested and fired from his job. Even before Reddy's capture, investigators suspected that the man who attacked Gita was also involved in Pallavi's death. During a search, Reddy was found in possession of a suitcase with women's underwear, but no evidence was found to prove his guilt in the murder. He was booked under a case of assault on a woman's honor and released on bail. Umesh immediately left Chitradurga for the neighboring city of Bangalore. Reddy continued killing despite nearly going to jail. During his time in the police force, he had learned the law enforcement system well and planned his crimes meticulously. He attacked women between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. when most of the men, after selecting a victim, Reddy would knock on her house to ask for water or directions. Once he managed to get into the apartment, the women had little chance of escape. Umesh threatened them with a knife, raped them, and then he took the victim's jewelry and kept it in his home as trophies. Some people managed to escape. In Hulamavu village, Reddy broke into a woman's house and tried to rob her. She was able to fight him off and run out of the house, and Umesh was caught in the street by neighbors who heard screams. They tied him to a pole and handed him over to the police. During interrogation, Umesh told them where he lived, but did not give his own name. Again, during the search, the police found women's underwear and jewelry. Reddy confessed that he had stolen all these items and also that he wore the lingerie at night and masturbated. At the station, Umesh was identified by another victim. Then, under pressure from the police, he confessed to several more assaults and theft. But Umesh didn't stay in custody for long. As investigators were transporting him around the crime scenes to give evidence, Reddy complained of feeling unwell and asked to use the toilet. The cops dropped him off at a eucalyptus grove, and Umesh immediately took. A month later, police found Reddy in the backyard of his house where he had been hiding all this time. When he was brought to the Chitradurga court, thousands of people gathered outside the building. They pleaded for no verdict and instead handed Reddy over to them for a lynching. To ensure his safety, the police decided to shift Reddy to a high-security jail, which was located in the neighboring town of Bangalore. Detectives who worked on Umesh's case said that he was very clever and immediately tried to think of ways to gain the trust of the guards by posing as an innocent and sickly man. Before leaving for Bangalore, he pretended to have broken his ankle and asked for a leg cast. On the way out, he asked to use the restroom again. The cops assumed he couldn't leave with a sore leg, but Umesh escaped as soon as he waited for his attendant to be distracted. The Bangalore police stepped up security measures and put Reddy on the wanted list. For months, he was on the run and moved from city to city. In each city, he would get a job as a handyman, rape women, steal money, and then move on. In Baroda, Reddy even managed to rob the house of the local Shah and steal his car. 6 months after his escape, he returned to Bangalore again and settled in the Pinja area. It was there that he killed the mother of 7-year-old Suresh, Jayashri Marathi Sabaya. This crime was the worst in the history of the entire neighborhood. 2 days after Marathi's murder, Reddy attacked a pregnant woman. As usual, he knocked on her door to ask for directions. When the door opened, Umesh put a knife to her throat, but she managed to break free and hit him on the head with a saucepan. Once again, the neighbors who came screaming turned Umesh over to the police. Umesh Reddy's trial lasted 4 years and was held in different courts in Bangalore and Chitradurga, so he was constantly moved from one prison to another. In March 2002, Reddy came up with a plan for another escape. Before traveling to another city, Reddy convinced police officers that he had a fever and was almost unable to walk. When the guards stopped for lunch, he convinced them to let him go to the restroom by complaining of stomach pains. That's how he managed to escape for the 5th and final time. After the news of Reddy being free again was broadcast on television, Bangalore was hit by a wave of panic and fear. Journalists called him a monster and a psychopath. Girls were afraid to go out on the street. Bars appeared on the windows of local residents. The police finally managed to catch him only 2 months later. During this time, he committed 3 more rapes and several thefts. On Friday morning, May 17, 2002, while driving near the Gayatri Temple in Yeshwanthpur, a motorcycle driver recognized in the crowd a man whose picture he had recently seen in a newspaper. It was Reddy. He was walking towards the barber shop. The driver called his brother and asked him to bring the police from the police station opposite. He himself kept watching Reddy to tell the police where he was going. After a while, the killer left the barber shop and walked towards the train station, where the police were waiting for him. Initially, Reddy was accused of attacking 18 women, but proved involvement in only 9 crimes. In some cases, he was acquitted. For example, in the case of Geeta, the judge decided that since the girl was rescued, her honor was not damaged, and therefore there was no crime. Some of the victims refused to testify for fear of public humiliation. The prosecution also failed to prove that it was Umesh who killed Pallavi. On October 26, 2006, 10 years after his first murder, Umesh Reddy was sentenced to death. He requested that the sentence be vacated so that he could take care of his aging mother, but the court did not consider this a mitigating factor and upheld the decision. Since it was a capital case, the final sentence had to be considered by the High Court. A year later, a Karnataka High Court bench also convicted Reddy, but the judges disagreed on the death sentence. He tried several times to appeal the verdict and even wrote a clemency petition to the President of India, but was denied. The case was heard several more times, in 2009, 2011, and 2021, but the decision remained unchanged. The sentence was commuted only in November 2022. The death penalty was commuted to life imprisonment with the right to seek parole after 30 years.